we've talked about this in Vocabulary Booster number 1, Vocabulary Booster number 2, and Vocabulary Booster number 3. That explicit and robust vocabulary instruction is the goal. And obviously the goal, beyond that, the goal is comprehension. So in the first session, we identified Tier 2 words. I took you through the process on that bookmark, okay? I'm going to put the bookmark up here one more time just to hammer it home that this is our friend when we're identifying Tier 2 words. Let me flip it to this side with all of the steps there, okay? We identified those words that we are going to put through an explicit vocabulary routine. Then in session 2, we got to dig a little deeper and we looked at definitions, and then we developed those initial word meanings that are so important. Then when we moved into session 3, we looked at examples and non-examples using critical attributes, okay? So in this session, we are going to look at deep processing, okay? I mentioned earlier in a previous booster, I have a friend that likes to roll things around in her head. That's how I think of deep processing. This is where we really take that ownership. This is where comprehension reaches a whole new level, if you will. When we go out to campuses, we get lots of requests for information about deep processing. What can I do? How can I address those deep processing activities? When we go in and we talk with teachers and principals, usually that's something that we suggest. Look at those deep processing activities. So this session, I think, will help with that. So let me show you from Bringing Words to Life, Robust Vocabulary Instruction, a quote. One of the strongest findings about vocabulary instruction is that multiple encounters are required before a word is really known. That is, if the word is to affect a student's comprehension and become a useful and permanent part of a student's vocabulary repertoire. I think that's pretty powerful. So our goal in providing explicit and robust vocabulary instruction is to help students gain ownership of these words by developing a deep understanding of them. So we want these words that we choose to become a useful and a permanent part of our students' repertoire, okay? So then there at the bottom on that same page, this is page 83 on Bringing Words to Life. Basing their work on numerous vocabulary studies, the authors found that the key features of that instruction are frequent and varied encounters with target words and robust instructional activities that engage students in deep processing. So the purpose of today's booster session really is to learn how to develop these robust deep processing activities that will allow our students those multiple encounters that are necessary in order for them to gain that ownership of those Tier 2 words that we, as their teachers, have selected using an explicit vocabulary routine. Okay? So these activities, going back to the quote on page 83, Bringing Words to Life, these activities go beyond the information presented when the words were introduced during day 1 of the explicit vocabulary routine, to provide opportunities for students to be actively involved in using and thinking about word meanings and creating associations among words. Okay? So after introducing words, Beck and her colleagues in Bringing Words to Life suggest providing students with opportunities throughout the week, throughout the 5-day week, to do the following things. They're going to use the words. They're going to explore the facets of word meaning. They're going to consider the relationships among words. So let's explore each of the considerations for developing deep processing activities. Okay, this is page 84 of Bringing Words to Life. And it says, having students create uses for words was important to ensure that the word was an active part of their vocabularies. If students were unable to create a context around a word, then the word would remain just an isolated piece of information. Engaging students in talking about situations a word could describe, or in considering instances when the word would be an appropriate choice, were important ways to support the word becoming a part of a network of ideas. So when we're developing these deep processing activities that provide students with those opportunities to actually use the words that we've chosen, think about the situation in which the word could be used and how to scaffold activities so that students can interact with the word really in ways that will help them to build, that context around the word. So, this is consideration for developing the deep processing activities. So, and obviously these are not words that we've really discussed today in my New York Times article. These are not words that we've discussed in Enemy Pie. I'm bringing these words out because it's what Isabel Beck and her colleagues have referred to in the book Bringing Words to Life, okay? So, if we look at using the words, how about some sentence stems? An example of a sentence stem would be, the citizens were incredulous when the dogs absconded with, the candidate refused to concede that she had lost the election because, okay, just examples there. So, if we're exploring the facets of word meaning, as Beck and her colleagues suggest, we first discussed the idea of exploring facets of word meaning during our last booster session when we talked about examples and non-examples. It is important to help your students see the different aspects of a word's meaning and that the word can be applied in multiple contexts, not just one. So we explored the example of that word delighted. Okay? So if the word is always used in association with getting a gift, then those students may not understand the many different applications of that word. Okay? It can mean a lot of other things. So when we're developing deep processing activities that provide students those opportunities to explore the different facets of word meaning, we need to think about different ways in which that particular word can be used to convey meaning. So it's helpful to think about examples and non-examples, because examples include all of the definition's critical attributes, whereas the non-examples include some, but not all, of those critical attributes. So here on my handout, considerations for developing deep processing activities. Here's an example and a non-example. A boy tells his friends about a birthday party and hopes they can come. We're looking at the word impatient, by the way. A boy tells his friends about his birthday party and hopes they can come. That's the example. The non-example, a boy counts the days until his birthday party and wishes the time would go faster. Okay? So on page 85 of Bringing Words to Life, Isabel Beck and her colleagues say, relationships are also important because of the way individuals' word knowledge is stored in networks of connected ideas. Thus, the more connections that can be built, the more opportunities there are for an individual to get to the knowledge of a word when it is encountered in a new context. Chances become greater and greater that the words met will set off associations in the network and allow the learner to derive meaning from the context in which the word is used. Okay, so let me go back to this handout. So, considerations for these words, okay? We have giggle, laugh, and chuckle. Then on this side we have whimper, sob, and cry. Okay? And again, these are just words that were pulled out to be examples from bringing words to life. Okay? So today's training will really provide us with these examples of deep processing activities. We're going to get into some very specific ones. When your teachers come to you and say, "What can I do for deep processing?" You're going to leave here today with some stuff to give them. Okay? Although we're only going to look at a few things, you will have more in your binder. Okay? So we'll pull these activities out of Bringing Words to Life, Robust Vocabulary Instruction by Isabel Beck. And you can use that to provide your students with multiple opportunities to interact with and develop understanding of the words that you've chosen to teach, or to explicitly teach, which means to... A little louder, please. You're losing. I'm losing you. Put it through the 6-step vocabulary routine. That's it. So let me start by displaying some activities that are straight from the text, and I can go over some examples with you. So this is straight from Bringing Words to Life, and this is on page 67 in that book. This is an activity. This is a deep processing activity when your teachers ask you for some. Here you go. Making choices is what we call this. And I would say, if any of the things I say might be examples of people clutching something, say clutching. If not, don't say anything. So let me just run through the list here. Holding on tightly to a purse. Holding a fistful of money. You better believe it, right? Softly petting a cat's fur. Oh, let's hope not. Holding on to branches when climbing a tree. Blowing bubbles and trying to catch them. Okay, so if any of the things that I say would make someone look radiant, say, you'd be radiant. If not, so don't say anything. And I like this because they're not just using the word, they're using it in a phrase. Okay, winning $1 million. Yes, you'd look really good all of a sudden, wouldn't you? Getting a hug from a favorite movie star. I will just tell you, I got a hug by Madonna once, and I'm not kidding. And I was radiant for weeks after that. I don't mean to digress, but we're at the end of the day, and I'm just going to tell you my business, okay? Okay, walking to the post office. No, that's not exciting to you? Okay. Maybe with Madonna, yeah? Cleaning your room. Now, see, that's exciting to me. It is, sorry. Having the picture you painted hung in the school library. I think so. Okay, I'll say some things, and if they sound leisurely, say leisurely. If you need to be in a hurry, say hurry. So taking a walk in the park. Firefighters getting to a fighter. Firefighters getting to a fire. Runners in a race. Sitting and talking to friends. A dog lying in the sun. Oh, yes. So that's making choices. Let's look at another one here. This is word association. This is page 79 of Bringing Words to Life. You would tell your students that you will say a word, and then they are to tell you which of the 3 new words it makes them think of. Okay, and you will repeat this as needed, and you're going to use 3 possible words. So which word does breakable make you think of? Okay, delicate. Why did breakable make you think of delicate? And then if necessary, provide an explanation. For example, breakable goes with delicate because something delicate is easily broken or hurt. Okay? Which word does bite make you think of? Okay, a morsel. Why did the word bite make you think of morsel? Then if necessary, you would provide an explanation. Which word does trip make you think of? Stumble. Somebody said stumble. So why did trip make you think of the word stumble? And then they'll talk about it, and if so, you provide an explanation. Okay, then the third activity that we're going to discuss today, remember there are many others. I'm just focusing on these three: making choices, word association, and finish the sentence. And if you're writing notes down, these are on page 67 and 79. So they're not right together. But finish the sentence. I have some sentences that need endings, and I'll start with a sentence and ask you to think of an ending. I'll show you one for practice. The sentence starts out, the vase was so delicate that... Let's see, the vase was so delicate that I was afraid to touch it for fear it would break. So who can think of another way to end the sentence? The vase was so delicate that, who can do it? Just say it out. The vase was so delicate that it fell over when the door slammed. Okay? I wanted to eat just a morsel of green beans because I don't want my vegetables, right? The puppy stumbled on the sidewalk because because his body's this big and his feet are this big, right? Okay, good. So those are our examples, and remember that there are many more. Those are just the ones that we actually are going through today. So now we're ready to move into the we do portion of Vocabulary Booster session number 4. So now we're going to go back to those words from Enemy Pie by Derek Munson. Remember, I talked about these before, and I pulled out my 3 words, disgusting, nervous, and relieved. I decided of these 3 words to put these 2 through the routine, disgusting and nervous. Okay? Imagine that I'm a 2nd grade teacher. I'm preparing to read Enemy Pie as part of our realistic fiction genre study. So I've read the text. I've selected the words that I think will be unknown to my students. I've developed student-friendly explanations to use as all part of that explicit vocabulary routine for each of the Tier 2 words that I chose, which in this case were disgusting and nervous. I identified examples and non-examples to use as part of my explicit vocabulary routine for each word. I now need to think about those deep processing activities that I want to use throughout my week to help my students develop that deeper understanding of the words. So for this activity, let's just focus on the words disgusting and nervous. And before we begin these deep processing activities, let's review the student-friendly definitions for these words. And I'm just going to go back and review my routine card. So disgusting is an adjective that describes something that you do not like because it makes you feel sick. Nervous is an adjective that describes feeling worried or scared about something. Okay? So if you would, take out your We Do activity handout. We Do activity handout. It looks similar to this. Now, this, I only have 2 pages pulled here. Yours should be about 4 pages, right? Is that what it looks like? Am I right on the 4? Okay, good. That will help. Now, you will see many different activities there. Just take a moment and read through those 4 pages of activities. I just took you through 3 of them. You'll see those as you go. I took you through 3. Look at some of the rest. I'm going to give you just like 2 minutes to do that. Okay, so we've just entered the We Do process here. So I'm going to ask you to work with a partner to develop some examples of deep processing activities for the word nervous. Just for the word nervous, and although we just quickly previewed many examples of deep processing activities, I want you for now to only work with a few. So let's look at the 3 that I shared with you. Let's just look at making choices. So you might want to go and put a star by making choices. And then I don't know if it's a few pages over or the next page, but you've got the next 2 are together. Word association and finish the sentence. So I'm going to repeat that. All I want you to do for now, we're going to work with a partner, and we're going to come up with some deep processing activities, but we're going to look at making choices, word association, and finish the sentence. Partner, develop an example for making a making choices activity using the word nervous and write it in the space provided on the right side of your handout. Okay? I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. We're just looking at making choices, and we're looking at the word nervous. Could someone, I just want one person to share one example that they came up with for a making choices activity for the word nervous. Who could share, please? Sure, that'd be...
Giving a speech in front of the school.
Giving a speech in front of a school. Very good. Let me show you what I have as an example of a word association activity. So if I say something that might make you nervous, say nervous. If you do not think it would make you nervous, do not say anything. And then I would say watching a scary movie. Nervous. Being in a dark room. Riding your bicycle. See, that's kind of subjective though, isn't it? It all depends on how you feel. My 7-year-old is like, do not buy me I hope Santa does not bring me a bicycle because I will not ride it. Eating popcorn. Why, are you going to get it between your teeth? And that bothers you, doesn't it? Oh my goodness, I love it. I love learning all your little quirky personality traits in these trainings. It makes it all worth it. Okay, let's look at another one. I know some of you worked ahead, you overachievers, you. But let's just look now at word association. Let's look at those activities. They've given you an example here for disgusting of word activities for word association. Work with your partner. Come up with a word association activity for the word nervous. A word association example for the word nervous. One share, and then I show mine, and then we move on. Tremble. There you go. What else? One more. Interview. Ooh. Ooh, that just made me tremble. Which word does calm make you think of? And then they say nervous. Why did calm make you think of nervous? Okay. All right. Let's move on. Are we ready? Let's do finish the sentence. Work with your partner. Come up with an activity for finish the sentence for the word nervous. We'll come back together in a moment. An example of a finish the sentence activity for the word nervous. Yes, ma'am.
Some characteristics are displayed when nervous are.
I like that. What else?
Being nervous makes me feel
Because, yes. That goes with the why or why not. Yes, ma'am.
My teacher gets nervous when.
Oh, that's an interesting. Nice. Okay, so here we have Big scary bugs make a lot of people nervous because the new student was nervous because having to write a story in school makes me nervous because that would be an interesting one. Great. Okay, so that was the we do. So we have one more activity, and that's the you do. So remember, for this we're going to go back to the books that we provided from VGC for this training. You and your partner early in the day came up with those words that you identified as, number one, words that your students may or may not know. Number two, words that might need more attention. And words that you're going to put through the explicit vocabulary routine. And so on and so forth. Okay? So now if you would, please take out the Tier 2 words that you selected earlier in the day, or in the previous session, I should say. And also, you will need this handout, the You Do activity, which mine is filled in, yours will be blank. So working with a partner, here's what we're going to do for the next 15 minutes or so. You and your partner are going to go through this document and fill out those spaces by planning the deep processing activities that you plan to use in order to provide your students with those opportunities to interact with the words throughout the week, Monday through Friday. Okay? So I'll read an example for you. So day one, obviously, I'm going to introduce the words using the explicit vocabulary routine. Okay? I'm moving to day two. I'm going to review the definitions of the words. I'm going to lead the students through that making choices activity. I'm going to provide the students with the time to add the words and the definitions to their vocabulary notebook. Then when I get to day three, it says to read enemy pie, but what that really means is reread it because you've already read it. And I'm going to lead students through the text talk activity, which is in Bringing Words to Life. We didn't talk about it, but it's there. Did you see it in your handout, text talk? Okay. Day four, as a warm-up, have students do the finish the sentence activity. Now, this is just as a warm-up. So we're not spending a lot of time, are we? It's just a warm-up. So you may want students to include these sentences in their vocabulary notebook to use with the words. And then on day five, I'm going to review the words using a yes-no activity. Okay? So this is just an example. That's why I'm going to leave it up here for you, just so that you can see it as you develop this plan. So go ahead and begin working with your partner, and we can come around and provide support. We're going to give you about 15 minutes to do this, because when you go back and present this to your teachers, I think this would be a great example for you to show them. Even show them the one that you created, because you know your campus. And if you did not finish, I'm walking around the room, I'm seeing various levels of completion. So if you're not finished, I think you see where we're going with this. You have the completed example in your binder, so you can certainly use that. So I'm going to go ahead and close out booster session number 4. Congratulations. You've had 4 booster shots in one day. Awesome. Yes. I would like to say that the remaining activities can be found in chapters 4 and 5 of Bringing Words to Life. Okay? Also, there's a book called Vocabulary Strategies That Work. Do this, not that. You may have that on your campus. I see some heads shaking. I see some heads bobbing like, I don't know if I've seen that book before. So Maria's holding it up. That's what it looks like. And then also the resources packet from the Vocabulary and Oral Language Development PD session that we offered last year. Okay. And that concludes booster session 4. Thank you very much.